Murray, thanks very much for joining us, and thank you for your film Overwritten.
Pleasure to be here, and thanks very much for screening the film.
Not a problem at all. Yeah, so that was disturbing. That was a really sinister film. Tell us about its inception and some of the ideas in it.
Um, I can't remember what the inspiration was. There's always an inspiration somewhere in there, but it was something to do with what it would be like to play with a person's brain while they're sitting right in front of you. I think actually, what comes to mind is Hannibal Lecter feeding that guy his own brains, and like asking him how it tastes. That's one idea. And also kind of like Westworld, where I think it's Arthur, who, like, the mate, the big bad, I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
Who can just kind of like pause any of his androids at any moment and give them new commands and stuff like that. I just think that the more you humanize that person who's being affected, the kind of more off-putting it is, the scarier it is, the more that we can put ourselves in their shoes. So I would say that's where the film was kind of inspired from.
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I was watching it. I just thought this represents like the worst of toxic masculinity, I guess. Yeah, that
Yeah,
desire just
we
to,
definitely went for that angle.
yeah, that worked well. That was the most disturbing part for me, I thought, just at the
I
end.
think there was that idea of like, okay, so who are we going to have manipulating who? Like, because those characters could have been anybody. And it was a kind of an easy thing to lean on, to have a character who wants something from somebody. Is like, if you have this guy who wants to make his perfect woman, and in the original idea, because the original idea that we shot was not the film that you guys just watched,
Mm.
um, he had this ex-girlfriend who had left him, and so he'd ordered this android version of her with a flash copy of her personality, and he was
Okay.
planning to make adjustments to it to make a version of his girlfriend that would never leave him. But he's left with this neutered sex doll that just actually gives him nothing.
Mm.
And so that was his comeuppance. But yeah, we actually, throughout the process of making the film, did change the story and made it Lily's story instead of Vince's. But that's something that happened in the edit.
Right. So you shot it with a completely different story or script in mind, and then recut it to
Yeah.
a different
So
idea.
I think probably the most surprising part about this film is that we made it the day of screening at
Oh,
Filmonic.
wow. Wow.
So Tatum Warrenyatta from New Zealand,
Yeah.
who's the actress in the film who plays Lily, she's dating my flatmate, and she was visiting, and she was going back to New Zealand like 2 days after Filmonic. And she'd previously visited, and we had like chatted about making a film together, but missed the opportunity. And I realized that my process of like, all right, let's have a pre-production meeting, an ideas meeting, a writing meeting, and then pitch it, and then all these things that were getting in the way of just making a film with her. And I didn't want to lose on that opportunity again. So I just said, Tatum, you free tomorrow? We're going to shoot a film. She's like, yeah, awesome. And I bashed out the idea overnight. And then the morning of, I hit up Johan, who plays Vince, and I was like, hey, man, you free? Meet us at this apartment at 10 o'clock, which I'd rented on Airbnb. And we just showed up and shot it. And we shot Vince's story where he, starts off with, this nothing, and gets this girlfriend who's come into his life, but he can't stop manipulating her to be exactly what he wants. And that ended up blowing up in his face. And we, yeah, finished that, we probably wrapped about 8:30, which is when Filmonic starts. So we went straight there and went in the back room with my laptop and started just like smacking clips onto the timeline.
Oh,
And I managed to get up till about the third change before it was
yeah.
like really like I figured if I need to make time for exporting. So exported what I had as a kind of teaser, and we screened that. And it was really surprising because it was actually really funny. Like people were laughing a lot at every time he would like say settings.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
would, and it might have been like a kind of uncomfortable laugh, you
Yeah.
know, because it's a weird thing. But to like go in and do that to somebody, even if they aren't real. But yeah, I was like, oh, I never realized that this was like a funny film. But then once we'd screened it and I'd got an idea of that, I handed it off to our editor, Kevin Luck, who edited Stingray, which you guys might have seen.
We did show that, yeah.
And I just said, take it, go, do whatever you want with it. And he's like, any ideas? I'm like, mate, just make the best film, you know? And he told me after watching it, and when he screened me his kind of first cut, it's a far more interesting film from Lily's perspective. And so that's what he cut. He cut the film where during that phone call, it was supposed to cut to, and we shot, it cuts to Vince, where he calls the guy that he bought it from and he's like talking and he gets frustrated about it. And Kevin did that incredible effect where he just kind of like kept Lily frozen in that moment, unblinking, just as if she's
Yeah.
trapped in that body. And it's like that moment in Get Out or something like that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, that's so much better. And it's proof to the idea that every film is made when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. But it's also proof that, you know, there's something to be said for auteur filmmakers, you know, who have their vision and they write it and they shoot it and they edit it, like your Tarantino or something like that. But even he works with an editor who, you know, brings that perspective. Like George Miller and Mad Max, he got his wife to edit it because he didn't want an action film that looked like a dude had edited it. And look how good that is. So trust the people you work with, find artists who you believe in. I work with writers that I love. I work with editors that I love. And I'll make final call, but it's their process, you know? And even if I do make final call as the filmmaker, as the director, I can't think of any time that I've overwritten someone when they passionately believe in an idea and they give me reason enough to believe in it as well. Because that's what I think is being a director. It's that leadership. It's actually, you know, yes, there's that artist idea in you, and it's communicating that to others, but then it's also listening to the artists around you and letting them bring those ideas and then putting those all together to create the best film. And for a film that was made in a day and then edited a little while after that, and a little bit of sound design to fix a couple of audio issues, because, you know, why wouldn't there be audio issues? We got it done by the next Filmonic, and yeah, I was really proud of it for, you know, how little time we had spent making it.
No, it's stunning. I thought a lot more time would have been put into that.
I mean, it just goes to show that like you don't need a ton of time to make a film. You just need an idea and you need some people and you need a place, and you just show up and you shoot the crap out of it. And you're going to be flustered either way. So you may as well just go for it, you know?
It's always stressful, no matter how much or how little time you have.
Yeah.
But hopefully rewarding in the end. But yeah, it's interesting to hear your ideas about your initial idea and how it changed. And I mean, I have no idea how the audience will respond to it because it's recorded before, obviously. But yeah, I laughed nervously throughout it, and yeah, was quite disturbed when he kind of went, you know, did like a factory reset, and she was like herself. Because at that point, up until that point, I thought that she was a robot, and yeah, she is. But there was a part of me that thought, oh my God, he's just like somehow put like an implant of a chip into his actual
I think the
girlfriend.
new version of the film, that's actually the case. In my original version, you have this girlfriend, and it's the future where you can just order an Android copy of a person,
Yeah.
and then you can like use their social media profile, because we had some shots of him like scrolling through her Instagram and like maybe messaging her but deleting the message.
Yeah.
You can like copy their personality, but it will like freeze them at that point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they made the changes of like removing any hate for him, but it's like you can't meddle with it too much. I think now what it is that he's managed to plant something in her mind to
Yeah.
bring her back to him.
And that is
And
far more disturbing to me.
yes,
That's when
absolutely.
that was like, oh my God, like I feel really awkward. And that's
Yeah.
that's really effective. Yeah. I hope
Yeah.
I hope I'll be very interested to see how people react to it this evening. See if they laugh or recoil or both. So, we'll see.
Well, I think that those two ideas of like being really uncomfortable and then having a release of that tension leads to laughter. So, if you hear a gasp and you hear a laugh, then we've made the right balance in the film. But hell, I mean, we just kind of went for it, didn't we? I'd be lucky if anyone feels anything. I'd be really proud to feel that just made a film that people kind of connect with.
Yeah. Let's talk gear. You mentioned that you shot this in one day, and you shot it quite early in the day. It looks like it was all done at night to me.
Yeah, well, no. So showing up, you kind of like daytime, realizing. So it was shot at night, to a degree. Showing up at like starting getting people together at 10, getting to the place at 12 because it's check-in at Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then realizing it's winter. If I start shooting now, I know that like we're like ad-libbing a lot of the content in the script. Like I'm just kind of flashing this thing out. So we're likely going to go into the evening, and then it's going to shift, and we're going to have an awful time. So I waited for the sun to get lower to really actually start shooting it. We're just kind of running it a few times to get a feel for the thing. Gear wise, so as I work as a wedding videographer, we basically just use my equipment. So we've got the Sony A7 IV and the Sony A7S III, and they shoot together really nicely. So 4K, 10-bit, 422, 25 frames, just nice and simple. And I think we shot it in S-Log as well. And then I had my friend Andrew come over, who is a DOP, but he does some gaffing. I had my lights, so we had an Aperture 60X, which you can see in the reflections of the windows.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of look for it because we really tried to frame it out. That's kind of creating a little bit of light on Lily's face. And then we put a couple of Aperture MCs inside the lamp, just to kind of put a bit of diegetic light in there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the best thing about that location was the view. So we didn't want to brighten the place so much that you couldn't see out into that city kind of view. So yeah, shot on the Sonys, 2 cameras. I used the Rode Wireless Go 2s, I think, which were Andrew's. What I was thinking with that was that I could just put a mic on each of them and call it a day, and not because it was just basically me. It would like Andrew came on the day. I was like, hey, called him up. I know I need someone else. Can you bring your little microphones and be a second camera for me? So the plan was just going to be me. But I realized if I had a 2 camera, I'd probably save myself a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I could let these things kind of play out and just get more coverage for the time that we had. But we did have an issue with the Goes, which I'd never encountered before, where baked into the audio was just a fucking awful sound on one of the mics. So it's funny though, because we then worked with this sound designer that Kevin knows, Dougal Gant, in the post-production process, who managed to bring that audio back, which I was really impressed by, but it left these kind of artifacts that kind of gave Lily this kind of like and it's like you can almost hear the implant in her head, and I was like, well, I don't hate it. Like, I'm lucky we could just hear anything. But don't skip on sound, guys. Just get anybody to come and know that they've done it at least once before. on whatever device it is, and just monitor sound. Like I don't know why I always stick it in the back of my head every single time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
that was fun.
Yeah, I've screwed up some couple of commercial jobs in the past because I've screwed up on sound, and yeah, it's a it's a tough lesson. But yeah,
Tell
that
you what, to
yeah,
any budding filmmakers out there who want a job, get some okay audio recording gear and let everyone know that you're a soundy, and you will never run out of jobs. Just be a reliable soundy and you will never run out of work. I guarantee you, there's not enough good, reliable soundies in the world.
good advice. Um, and yeah, just broadly speaking, yeah, as you're quite prolific with your like creative work. You know, you mentioned that you're a wedding videographer, and I assume you do other kinds of work as well. Or you just do weddings at the
Yeah, no, right now I'm juggling between freelance photography, freelance videography,
yeah,
film directing,
yeah,
wedding videography, and then I've just started a wedding videography business as well.
right,
So better to be busy than be bored.
for sure. And how do you fit your creative work in amongst all that?
Um, my filmmaking partner, Garrett Eckerson, who wasn't available to shoot this film, he's my director of photography. We have put ourselves under a name, Rogue Anti-Kindness, as our production company.
Mm-hmm.
We've started a thing called Rogue Anti-Kindness's Creative Collaborative Co-working Space, or RACS. What it is Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we invite filmmakers that we love over, and we set ourselves a goal for the day. And that might be, write something. It might be work on something you're editing, but it should be get yourself towards the dream, right? It shouldn't be, oh, I've got some work I'm overdue. You can bring that stuff, but it's really like we're creating a space to focus on our life goals, because Lord knows that I am a hopeless self-motivator. Like I would rather do anything but work on films when I could play video games or something like that. So putting myself in a room of people who have all got a goal, got a writer right behind me who's like, hey, I want to write some pages, and all of a sudden I'm inspired to work on my thing, and I let everyone know, and we hold each other accountable. If we can't self-motivate, then we, motivate each other to get some filmmaking done. And we're doing that at the moment 2 days a week, and it's manifested so much. We've got like 5 projects in production at the moment.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'd highly recommend doing something like that. And I realized that this is just how any production company forms. It's guys in a garage just setting time. And that's all it is. Make time for it, show up, and have someone who you're accountable to, and Garrett and I realized if it was literally just the two of us, we'd play games together. So we had to bring in a few people who, we are on our level, those kind of emerging artists,
Mm-hmm.
getting closer every day to be working full-time professionally.
Yep.
And and when you set yourself down, you set yourself in a space with a purpose, it's just less likely that you get a bunk off. And I think that's really important, just being really open. And if you have offices, easy enough for you to go on another tab, but if you've got all screens are facing inwards, then you got to focus on it. So that's how we've managed to lock down on our creative process and make time for making films so that it never gets left by the wayside. And I think also something that is kind of newer for us is we've for a while now thought that like the filmonic style of a micro budget short film, they've been an amazing way to kind of hone our craft, but it gets a point where to progress as a filmmaker, you need to be recognized on another level.
Yeah.
And so that might be something like an official selection at a film festival. And to get that, it means doing more with your films than just kind of like making films that, oh, it doesn't matter if that, because we all know what's going on. You need to make films for
Yeah.
people who don't know who you are, don't give a shit about you at all, and still impress them. And that can be hard, because usually the biggest thing stopping you from doing that is budget constraints. You know, you want to work with professionals and you can't afford to pay them. So we've been saving up so that we can do that, so that we can push ourselves and our careers into the next level, which is what we're really excited about. So wish us luck.
Hey, if you keep producing work like Overwritten, I don't think you're going to need any luck. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really inspiring to see you guys pump out such amazing work. Where can people find out more about your work or see more of your work?
Yeah, so all my website, YouTube channel, Instagram, it's all just my name, Murray Enders. Murray like the river, and Enders like, I don't know, Enders game.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can check out my films on YouTube. I do a bit of photography as well on Instagram. I'm always happy to chat to people if you want to reach out and talk about filmmaking or anything like that. But I hope that I'm just trying to make something cool. You know, I don't want to win an Oscar. I want to make a film that has an action figure, or has some movie buff putting the movie posters on the wall. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to make films that people can fall in love with and buy the Blu-ray, even though it's obsolete, you know?
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's a genuine pleasure. Thanks, guys, for watching the film. Hope I didn't take up too much of your time, and enjoy your night.